Hello everyone, and welcome back to Lucky Loaders 15, where I'll be giving you 5 of my best bets for tomorrow's racing. Now before we get stuck into those, just going to reflect quickly on how today's results went. In the end, it wasn't too bad. We would have come out with a small profit. Our profits came from our 2 each way selections. The first of them was Glen Tees at Haydock for Mark Johnson and Franny Norton in the 130. Now he finished in 3rd place at 12 to 1, so you would have got some profit out of that selection. So I hope some of you were on that. But I thought Glen Tees did really well actually, considering he was outpaced really badly at one point during the race. And Franny Norton, he never gave up and he kept finding. And if you actually go back and watch a replay, if you haven't seen the race, he actually was in about 6th place in the last furlong. And then he stayed on again really strongly just to get up on the line to snatch 3rd place. I think he's a well-handicapped horse still. If they keep his mark of 82, I think that's fair. But I think maybe he needs an extra 2 furlongs or so. I think he's definitely going to be a stamina horse to follow throughout the season. And Mark Johnston's stable are in flying form at the moment. And they're definitely a stable to keep on side. So, yeah, Glen Tees, definitely put him in the tracker for next time out. And it'd be interesting to see where he turns up next. Our other selection was in the 1,000 guineas with Cloak of Spirits. Now, if you are a follower of my work and you listen to the podcast I run called the In the Saddle podcast, you might remember a few weeks ago we did a 2,000 and 1,000 guineas review, and this was always my selection for the 1,000 guineas. I put her up each way at 25 to 1 anti-post, and luckily I was on that price, so I was doing all right today with her finishing 2nd place. She ran a really good race. I hope some of you maybe took the 14 to 1. I think there was 16 to 1 as well available at one point, but she was always overpriced in my opinion, and I knew she would go very well fresh because that's what she did last season. And Richard Hannon does really well with his fillies, especially in the classics. He knows how to do them and get them ready for these races. So he was always very bullish and confident about her chances, and obviously she ran a good race. And I thought Andrea Zaney couldn't have given her a more better ride. If you actually looked at the racing today at Newmarket, it was really hard to come off the pace. A lot of the horses that won or did really well, made the places, actually were up with the pace or even made the run-in for the majority of it. So, yeah, it was a tough day for closers today, but Cloak of Spirits thought she ran a good race. Love was a worthy winner for Aidan O'Brien. I'm not sure if she should be an Oaks filly. The one I like for the Oaks is Peaceful, who we might see later in the week or next weekend in the Irish 1,000 guineas. I think she's going to get better going up in trip, and I would recommend anyone to go and watch her races at Thurles and as well at Newmarket, because she was doing all her best work later on. If she gets decent ground, I think she's going to be a massive player in the Oaks, and she would be my one. I think Love, she's a bit too short for me, and I think Peaceful is the one that will win the Oaks for Aidan O'Brien. You heard it here first. But yeah, that's the filly I like. But take nothing away from Love. I think she'll be good over these maybe a mile and 2 furlongs. I'm not sure if maybe she might go for the Coronation stakes at Royal Ascot. Not sure if that would be on the agenda, but it'd be interesting to see, like I said, where she goes next. Away from that, our Nap Safe Voyage. I thought he ran his normal respectable race at Haydock like he always does. I think that was his first defeat at Haydock today for John Quinn, but he ran really well, but he just bumped into a classier sort in the shape of Space Blues. He only just got up to beat him in the end, but Safe Voyager, he'll have his day again, and he's definitely one not to give up on, so I can forgive him that. Then our next best, Ebury. I thought that was a really disappointing selection actually. I think Tom Marquand, maybe he'd seen how the race has been running earlier, and he was in a prominent position, but I just think the way it panned out didn't really suit him. Being too close to the pace early on didn't help, whereas wins at Ascot before and his decent run at Newmarket the time before that, he'd been coming off the pace with a late run, and I think that's his style, and I will probably forgive him that effort, but I would like to see a better performance next time out, just to make sure that it wasn't too false to be true. But yeah, that's how today's selections went. But hopefully we can bounce back tomorrow and get some winners instead of some place efforts. But like I said, we would have had a small profit if you did follow the each ways in today with my selections. But hopefully we can get some winners tomorrow. And we're going to start in the 12:45 at Haydock with my Nap. Now this horse I'm really excited about. It's a horse called Brad the Brief. and he's currently in my Tote 10 Follow stable. I put him up as one of my free handicappers, and if you're doing that competition, I think it's vital to pick out some handicappers. It's not always about the group horses, because there are bonus points on offer for handicaps, and I could just see him being a horse in these sprinting handicaps that climbs through the ranks, and maybe could be potentially repeating the feat that Tom Dascombe pulled off last year when he won the Ayr Gold Cup with Angel Alexander, and he got a rating in the low 100s, and I could see this horse following a similar pattern. Now he's got a fantastic strike rate already in his from his 2-year-old career. He won 3 races from 4 starts, and those wins came at Bath, Wolves and Newmarket, and he was given a high rating of 90, but he won all of them really well. And his Newmarket run, the second place horse Genie B went on to win at Chelmsford for Mick Shannon, so that is actually a good level of form in my opinion. Yes, there's some nice types in here. I know the Martin Mead horse could be a danger, won well enough, but Brad the Brief for Tom Dascombe and Richard Kingscote, I think this horse could be a potential pattern horse later on in the season. He could be well up to running in these kind of listed races, Group 3s, further down the line in his career, and I think they found a good point with him tomorrow. They do very well, these two, at Haydock, and for me, I think at 3-1, he's not a dead cert, but you're going to get a run for your money, and I think that's very good value at 3-1. I can see him going very close, and he's definitely the one they've all got to beat. So so that's going to be my nap there. We then go to Chelmsford for the 130. Now, this horse is going to be in the extra column. It's a horse called Assets, currently 7-1 with bookmakers at the moment, trained by James Chapple-Hyam, and Johnny Egan is booked for the ride. Now, this horse, he has been a bit of a quirky horse in his career so far, but I just think James Chapple-Hyam throughout the winter was starting to understand him. He can go well fresh as well. He's placed fresh before, but I know his last run after he appeared after a break wasn't so good, but that's because he ran at Savile, didn't take to the surface at all, and you can always forgive a horse at Savile if they don't like it first time and never go there again. I think they learned that lesson about him, but he went on to win at Lingfield, and the only time he's actually appeared at Chelmsford, he finished second for James Chapple-Hyam. So he does like the course. He likes these kind of sharp courses on the all-weather with a left-hand turn, and he's off a mark of 57, which I think, even though he hasn't won off a mark that high before, he does have ability to still maybe have a couple more pounds in hand, because he was running in races a lot warmer than this last year. He was rated as high as 68, so he did come down the handicap quite a lot. And he's a son of Dubawi as well, and he's only 4 years old, so you would like to think maybe he's got a little bit of ability left in the locker. Even though he is in stall 9 tomorrow, that's not the worst draw. He could have been drawn in stall 12. I think he'll track the pace early, and then he'll come with a late run for his challenge, and I think he's got a great chance of running a good race from an each way perspective. So at 7-1, the current price available, I'm going to take a plunge on that one, and you can get 4 places as well with some bookmakers. So at 7-1, I think that represents a fair bit of value, and he's going to go in the extra column. We then go again with another extra tip at Chelmsford in the 305 with a horse called Fuchsia. Now, this horse is 4-1 with bookmakers at the moment, trained by James Fanshawe, and Daniel Muscat is booked for the ride. Now, this horse on handicap debut tomorrow looks very well handicapped off a mark of 64. Now, if you go back and watch the replay from the race at Wolves where it finished in 3rd place, that form has worked out really well, because the horse that won that race was a horse called Mr. Snowden for Richard Hughes, and that went and beat Enemy at Yarmouth the other day for John Gosden, and they really hold that Enemy in high regard. So to go and beat a horse like that quite comfortably in the end at Yarmouth as well, there was no fluke about it, was very impressive. And 64, you've got to think this mark is very workable, and she could easily maybe have £10 in hand come the end of the season. And even though she has been a little bit keen in her races, they are going to keep the hood on tomorrow, but she's got a good draw in stall 2. If something can give her a lead, I think, and she can settle, she could be very dangerous. And at 4-1, I'm going to take a bit of that. I think that represents a little bit of value. I'm going to take a chance by just taking a win-only bet. But I think Fuchsia, you know, at 4-1, I think she could be very well handicapped, especially with that form line. So for me, that's going to be our 3rd tip of the day. We then go my next best, which runs in the 455 at Haydock with a horse called Bondi Sands. This horse is currently 9-2 with bookmakers at the moment, and it's trained by Mark Johnson, who you want to keep on side at the moment, and Joe Fanning is but for the ride. Now this horse is currently rated 74, which I think maybe isn't actually a bad mark. You look through some of its form, it's not got that much convincing form, to be honest with you. It's been disappointing in quite a few of its starts, but it did run in a warm maiden last time out at Newmarket behind Brentford Hope, who could be anything. But yeah, Bondi Sands, he's got the mark of a 3-year-old improver, really, climbing through the handicaps. He's been gelded as well, which will help him. And I actually remember seeing this horse in the parade ring at Goodwood. I was there. It was a very rainy, horrible day towards the end of last year, and I remember he was such a big horse, and he just screamed that he would be a 3-year-old. He's by Australia as well, whose progeny tend to improve with age. It's shown from his stats. So I think he's going to want a trip in time, and he's going up in trip as well tomorrow, 1.5 miles. I think he's tackling. I think that's the trip. I think he's got a great chance of going quite well on his handicap debut, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if he wins, because Mark Johnson's horses are so far forward at the moment. If they can get him into a prominent position earlier on, I think he just might have the stamina to beat this lot. And for me, he's going to be my next best. We then go my long shot, which runs in the 7:20 at Lingfield with a horse called Sashenka. Now, this horse is currently 12 to 1 with bookmakers at the moment, and you can get 4 places. So I'm going to recommend an each way selection here, trained by Sylvester Kirk and Liam Canary's but for the ride. Now, this horse, most of her best form has come on the all-weather, and she's a late closer, and that style of racing can really suit at Lingfield. She's not been to Lingfield on the all-weather since she finished second on debut. So even though she's not won on the track, it's not a negative. She's done a lot of racing at Kempton, but I think she's well handicapped still off a mark of 79. I still think it's a very workable mark. Now, if you actually go back to one of her early starts in her career, she actually finished second behind John Gosden's Starcatcher, who went on to win the Irish Oaks. So if she's running off a mark of 79, and obviously Starcatcher is going to be at least rated £30 higher, you got to think Sashenka's really well handicapped, and she wasn't far beaten that day. Yes, it was a few lengths, but it wasn't like 10 lengths. So you got to think she could still be very well handicapped, and I think she wants a trip as well. I think she wants slightly further, maybe 1 mile and 6. But Sylvester Kirk's team have started okay. They had a winner, I think it was at Kempton last week, and they have a nice filly as well called Bubble and Squeak, and she ran well for a really long way in the race yesterday at Newmarket for the fillies. So yeah, I think Sashenka represents a good bit of value. I know Desert Caravan will be the one that a lot of people will be drawn to for William Haggis in the colours of the Queen, but I think it's quite short, and I'm not sure about the trip either. Bayou Oasis Dream normally associate his horses with sprinters. That's a bit of a negative for me, but hey, what would I know? But Sashenka at 12 to 1, I think that's a great each way bet, and for me that's going to be my long shot for tomorrow's racing. So there, my 5 bets for tomorrow's racing. Just recap quickly: in the 12:45 at Haydock, we go Brad the Brief, which is my nap, 3 to 1 win only bet. We then go to the 1:30 at Chelmsford with a horse called Assets, which is 7 to 1, recommended each way at 4 places. We then go to the 3:05, which is another extra bet with a horse called Fuchsia in the 3:05 at Chelmsford, currently 4 to 1, and that's going to be a win only bet. We then go to the 4:55 at Haydock with Bondi Sands. That is my next best, and that's currently 9 to 2, and I'm just going to recommend a win only bet on that one. And then with my long shot, my final selection is in the 7:20 at Lingfield with a horse called Sashenka, currently 12 to 1, 4 places each way, and that will be written in the description box below if you didn't catch any of that. But anyway, that's all I've got to say on that. So if you haven't done so already, please subscribe here for more videos here on my YouTube channel at LuckyLoaders15. You can also follow me on Twitter as well using my handle, which is also at LuckyLoaders15. Check out my website as well if you want to for a full list of my portfolio, which is www.chrisloaderracing.co.uk. Please gamble responsibly, and we'll be seeing you soon.